methodology. Okay, so I don't know if we have people that were there last week. If you were there last week, I would just like to ask a few questions just so that we can get a head start. I'm aware that we have different kinds of people on the call. Some people are deep IT, deep IT guys, IT gurus, who have just come to collaborate with us. Some others are IT sales people. I know one in particular, and then we have some that are new into IT, fresh from school, looking for where to attach themselves, once they enter the working phase of their lives. And then we have people that are guys from other professions, who want to see how they can latch onto IT, because clearly the wave of IT has really exploded, right? And so we have professionals, people from other fields trying to see how they can fit in. Some are even trying to enter the IT space, as it were. So I'm hoping that our discussion today would do justice to all the different kinds of people on the call today. So if you would not mind, right, all of us should just drop the chat, right? I don't want to say everyone should introduce themselves. Just drop a chat, your name, what field that you play in. I'll just be reading it here so that it could inform how I approach this presentation beyond what I've prepared. Okay, as much as possible, I'll like the audience to draw from me, not necessarily me pushing to them, but we would use the presentation just like a structure, but feel free to ask your questions, drop it on the chat. I would definitely find a way to address them all. This time was a sensitive time to have given me that call, because this Premiership window and a number of teams are playing now, right?
I understand, sir.
All right, guys. So let's start, okay? The topic for today is Agile methodology in the modern workspace, right? All of us know what modern workspace is, right? If we don't, but I'm sure most of us are wishing to work in particular environments. So, those environments is what I mean by modern workspace, right? We talk about flexible work hours. Some workspaces have game centers where you play table tennis and stuff, while some other people are busy coding and doing serious stuff on their systems. We talk about working at any time of the day, whether working from home or working from the office space, or even working from another country. The most interesting part for me for modern workspace is working and being paid in a different currency, right? I'm sure that touches home with most of us. All right, so there's a methodology that should work within the modern workspace for IT guys, okay? So I'm hoping we'll do justice to this. All right, so this is my agenda, okay? Agile, what it is, how it came about, and why. Agile, we would also talk about framework, whether it's a framework or it's a methodology. People mix it up. They say Agile framework, Agile methodology, And then we'll talk about Agile and IT, meaning how does this Agile thing, fit into IT, And then because our goal here is to structure ourselves towards DevOps, I would also introduce DevOps, and this is the part where all the non-IT professionals should try to pay good attention to, okay? And then we will now end with how we can marry Agile and DevOps, okay? All right, fantastic. Agile, what, how, and when. So for most of my presentations, I will start with a picture, and then the picture will trigger thoughts, and then we'll try to speak towards to it. Okay. All right. So let me start with my journey with IT. Right. In the IT space, back in the days, like some of us would like to say it, without trying to look like we're trying to intimidate guys that are just entering the space. Okay. The way IT works, IT is seen as originally seen as people that just use tools to bamboozle other aspects of the business. Okay. And when I started, what IT was basically is interact with the business, or the business interacts with IT, and then tell IT what they want. And then IT now goes back, tries to do a design of what can, work for whatever the business has asked for. And then if the business agrees with this, then IT then implements it, tries to verify with the user that it's fine, and then the user starts using it and deriving value from what has been created from IT. And then IT then goes on to try to maintain the application, right? So this slide here shows the normal flow of activities in terms of solution delivery for IT within any business, most business spaces who have a full-fledged IT department. Okay, so the way it works is that you have a team that would take care of interacting with the business. So those teams are skilled in that aspect. They know how to negotiate. They know how to speak English. They know how to think in a structured manner. They know how to relate with the business with their own language, and things like that. Of course, we all know that IT people have their own language. Okay. And then when that team comes back, they now have a meeting with the internal guys who are the cooks in IT. If you're in IT and you don't know these guys, then I'm not sure you have a full-fledged IT team. Okay, so they meet with these guys called developers in some environments, but in some other environments, it's all splitted up. You have front end, you have middleware, you have back end, and co. Right? So they meet with these guys, and then they try to come up with a design. Design meaning a combination of tools, ideas, and stuff that can achieve the requirements that have been gathered, by the team that spoke with the business. And then once they are agreed, and the business says, okay, the picture you have is exactly what we're talking about, then these cooks, as I call them, then go ahead to cook the food. And these are guys you don't see on the streets, right? Just like you enter a restaurant, you make your order, you have the fine waitresses and co that come to take your order. They reconfirm that this is the order you've asked for. They show you pictures and stuff, and you agree that that's what you want. Then they go back and give this request to the cooks. These cooks are the developers, right? So those are the guys that do the actual design and implementation of the application or the solution, as it were. So after cooking, of course, they hand it back over to the waiters, who then go back and present it to the customers that made this request, right? Of course, customer verifies and begins to eat the food, right? In some environments, the food may not enter well. It could cause stomach issues, or what we call beans, But if all goes well, user verifies it's fine, and then the IT then proceeds to try to maintain this application. Within our IT space, the people involved in maintenance are the guys we call the support team, right? They are a very integral part of the whole process. All right, so this model, as you can see, is called waterfall. Why? Why is it called waterfall? It's called waterfall because you have teams of specializations, okay, according to the different stages of software development, of the software development or software delivery, as I will call it. All right, so you can see the arrows are flowing, like just imagine water coming in from the requirements. It drops down to design, from design drops down to implementation, from implementation drops down to verification, and then on. All right, so this model is beautiful, and it has worked for a very long time within the IT space. Very long time, very effective as far as the generations went. But we thank God for the Gen Zs, right? All right, so this model has kind of been touched up a bit, and then that's what gave birth to the whole idea of Agile. Okay, and just like the last presenter spoke about, Agile came up as a result of a meeting of developers. Let me take the slide back a bit. All right, so these guys behind the team, behind this design and implementation, right? They were not okay with this, because a lot of times users will either say, what you produce is not what I wanted, or whatever you've produced, time has gone past it. New things have come, new requirements have come. If you come out with this, it will be useless to me, and stuff like that. So there was need to, adjust the way they approach things. And the funny thing is that the whole Agile thing, right, well, consisted of a meeting of developers, about 16 of them or thereabout. They thought about the whole process, the project, all the stakeholders that disturb them, the project stakeholders, the project managers, the customers, even the IT management, the resources, and stuff like that, the system administrators, network teams, and all of them, including the support team as well. All right, so these developers decided to look at this whole process and say, no. This thing can't work again, okay? It can't work again. All right, so they decided to come up with a set of philosophies that they believe that if they are guided by these philosophies, they would be able to deliver and address all the issues that the stakeholders, all the different stakeholders have. Okay, so, and that's how they came up with the whole Agile cycle, as we can see. Okay, now there are some thought processes that are put into all this, some very specific thought processes, right? And it's good that we appreciate the fact that developers who are traditionally techie, right, could come out and come up with something as nimble as what they came up with. Okay, all right. I'll just try to read up some of the things, some of their thought processes, so that I would appreciate them. Okay, now just like techie people love tools, and all that, but they said their thinking and their approach, to the whole project delivery should emphasize collaboration, over processes and tools, emphasize value for individuals, for collaboration, for teamwork, over trying to make sure that you go through the process as it has been written down in black and white, and things like that, or to force yourself to force the customer or the users to make use of some tools that may not really address their issues. So they said priority should be placed over interactions, over collaboration, and over individuals than, those other things. And this goes in line with my own personal life principle, right? People are more important than what people have created. Okay. And these developers also said that documentation is important, but it's not as important as the working software, which is fantastic, honestly. Most of the things that they came up with are things that we would definitely agree with. And they said customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiation, meaning I take your satisfaction more important than, the currency that is stated on the contract, or the scope, that was stated on the contract, and then responding to change is more important than following a plan. Okay. And that's why I would say, even in life generally, right, people that have advanced faster are those that have been able to respond faster to change, rather than those that want to stick to their plan. Even in your personal lives, I'm sure we all agree with that. Yeah. Okay, so from people's introductions, I can see some people are consultants, but I particularly like the person that said he or she is an IT enthusiast. That enthusiast means two things, right? Either you just love the way IT guys do their stuff, or I really like to get into IT. But whichever side of the divide you fall into, okay, it's good that at the time when you're trying to look into IT was not dwelling on waterfall, because you wouldn't have liked it at all. All right. So let's go into Agile. So is Agile a framework, or it is a methodology? Okay. And just like the thought process I read earlier, I said comprehensive documentation is important, but the working software is more important. Okay. So Agile, whether you call it framework, whether you call it methodology, is not important at all, right? The key thing is that it's a philosophy, it's a way of thinking, all right? And that is why under Agile, you would now see different people, meaning different groups of developers or teams that want to achieve one project or the other, have come up with their own way of achieving, that philosophy or of carrying out that philosophy in their workings. All right, so just like you have quotable quotes from great men, right? Let me have my own quotable quotes, permit me. So Agile is a philosophy, yeah? A way of thinking around software development and IT delivery. Why I'm restricting it to this, though people have tried to force Agile philosophy into other areas of project management, okay? But truth be told, for some of you that may have tried it, you see that you are trying too hard. Why? Because it was created by software developers, all right? So it would most likely work best for software development projects. I'm not saying that it will not work with other kinds of projects. I'm only saying that it will work best, with software development projects, all right? But the thinking, let's not forget it. The thinking is very key. So I'll just read out a few of the thinkings, which I will call the principles around the Agile, right? They said satisfying customers through early and continuous delivery, right? Breaking down big work into smaller tasks, right? So that it is achievable and you can always show output at the shortest possible time. Recognizing that the best work emerges from self-organized teams, and so on and so forth, quite a lot of them. So, but trying to stick to my slide because I want to try and see if we can finish in 40 minutes, meaning by 1:40, we should be done. And then we can have a lot of questions, which I believe is more critical to this discussion than not. All right, so Agile and IT. If you have any questions so far, before you forget it, you can drop it on the chat. I promise you to pick it up. Okay. So, like I said, different groups of people have tried to come up with ways of implementing Agile in their different environments. Okay, and some of the ways have been listed out. The most popular in Nigeria is the Scrum methodology, right? In fact, some people juxtapose Scrum with Agile, okay? Scrum is just a way of materializing Agile. There are other ways, as we can see. There's lean software development, there's extreme programming, and there's Kanban. Okay. In my previous employ, I think we were doing Scrum and Kanban, and it was quite interesting because we wanted to stick to Scrum, but when we realized that, man, some softwares and the rates of the expectation and the rate of changes around those softwares, Scrum may not help us to deliver in an agile way, as agile as we want. So we had to move over to Kanban, and the output or the results were on point and fantastic. Okay, so I would speak a little bit about each of them, but I want you guys to also try to read it up so that you realize that some of these things are not just in my head, they are also available for all of us to see. I'll drop the link here. Yep, so I hope you can see that. So let's talk about Scrum. The last presenter last week spoke about Scrum in a very good detail, right? And I'll be tasking the different teams in my class to do some certain things. So would reorder the assignments that Yetunde gave you, so that you can build on the projects that she gave you. So I will sort of try to reorganize you, so that ahead of your presentation to me next week, you would know what I expect from you. Okay. All right. So for Scrum, the key part of Scrum is collaboration. Okay. Collaboration amongst all the players within the team. All right. So Scrum methodology. If you recall, I shared. If you recall, I shared a slide. Okay, I think it's ahead. Okay, that's fine. Okay, for Scrum methodology, okay, what you would see with the waterfall, because there's a relationship with all of them actually, right? Like I said earlier, in the waterfall, we had dedicated teams for each of these phases, right? So what Scrum tried to do, right, is to bring a representative of each of these phases, right, and put them in a team called Scrum team. Okay, so someone from the requirement side, someone from the design side, someone from implementation side, someone from verification side. In some environments, someone from the maintenance side. So they all form a team managed by who they call a Scrum Master, right? And then they have someone they call product owner. The product owner is the one that represents the interest of the user or the customer or the business that is, requesting for that change or requesting for that application, right? So they form a team, and that team meets every single day, right? And they have some activities around their meetings that helps them to deliver something out of the request that the business has asked for. So the business is sure to see maybe every 2 weeks or every 1 week or every 4 weeks, they are sure to see an output that is tangible enough in the journey of IT towards delivering what the business has asked for. Okay, so that is Scrum team. We also have lean software development. Okay, for lean software development, they try to remove all the guidelines, all the rules, all the methods, as much as possible, and stick, to the delivery of the software, that's been demanded, of them, right? So in this case, they remove all the roadblocks. So product owner, Scrum Master, and they have direct interaction with the customer. And as the customer is requesting, they are doing, right? And the customer is giving feedback, they are adjusting. That way they're able to carry the customer along, right? And truth be told, waterfall has tried to adapt to some of the positives of Agile, but it is still waterfall, right? So I'm sure some of you in your environments have heard what they call joint application development, JAD, right? It's borrowed from lean software development. Okay, the whole idea is that all the different stakeholders that speak to the software, right, are part of the design of the software. Microsoft and some of these big OEMs do it once in a while, right? They involve the customer in the design and implementation of new applications or amendments to their applications. Now, we also have Kanban. Kanban software development is sort of like lean, all right? It's in between lean and Scrum, right? Like I said from the beginning, all these are just attempts by different environments or different groups to see how best they can deliver IT service or IT software, right, in an agile manner, okay? So one of the key takeaways for Kanban is visualization, meaning transparency is very key for Kanban, all right? From requirement phase to maintenance phase, right? Visualization is key for them. So one of the simple ways that they depict Kanban is to have all the different phases of the software. They are a team together working on something, but the customer can see what phase their attempts or their efforts towards delivery is at, right? At every point in time for every part, of the project, as the case may be. In Agile, we try to avoid using the word project. We use the word product. All right, that's why a lot of us, when we're trying to tush our CVs, right, try to avoid projects, okay? Especially if you are within software development area. Try to use the word product. It's more futuristic. If I can lend you some expo. Okay, and then Kanban also tries to limit the amount of work that is in progress, meaning for every request, as soon as the request comes in, right, there is a deliberate attempt to complete it in a timely manner without waiting for another part of the request to be completed. So there's always a continuous flow with Kanban, always a continuous flow with Kanban. So for extreme programming, they call it extreme because just like lean, they removed all the dividing walls, so they adjust quickly to customer requirements. If customer is changing from black to white, they adjust quickly. They are adapted to just quickly reflecting what the customer wants at any time. See, one of the key takeaways for extreme programming is simplicity, right? Which also resounds with me. I always say the best design is the simplest design. Why? When a design is simple, it becomes extremely easy to adapt to any request. When a design is simple, it becomes easy to fix any issues. And when a design is simple, it becomes easy for even new entrants into the team to understand how the software works, and they're able to plug in and play. All right, so of course there are other agile methodologies out there. In the site I sent to you, there are others. There's Crystal, there's dynamic system development, there's feature-driven development. All of them. For feature-driven development, that one leverages on an existing project. Meaning, for instance, you have a Google, right? They already have a site, they already have a platform. Okay, so feature-driven development, meaning the IT teams now organize themselves according to the features of Google, right? There may be a part for search engine, there may be a part for marketing, there may be a part for ads, there's a part for sales, there's a part for look and feel, so you have teams that are dedicated to each angle, which I may call feature, for instance. So once there's a list of features, you have teams that are structured, to deliver those features, as the case may be. All right, so I hope I've been clear so far, okay? Okay, I thought I sent the link. Someone said we still await the link. Akinwale, hope you've been able to see the link. Someone said you can't see my screen again. Dapo, can you confirm if you are not watching DST? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I can see your screen here.
I can see your screen. Maybe the person did this screen movement. You have to move back to this side where you have the presentation.
Okay. Okay. So for the
link is not.
Hope everyone got it. I think I may have mistakenly sent it to just daas.ng.
I will add it. I will add it here. It was sent to he sent it to me directly.
Okay. Sorry about that. So I've sent it again, guys. So check it. You would enjoy what is there. All right. So let's move on. Okay. IT journey. Okay. So of course, IT started with the big boys, right? Before some other small boys, that wanted to chill with the big boys followed suit. And then, of course, the whole bandwagon, all right? By the OEMs, pre-1980, it was the Microsoft, the Apples, the IBMs, that had the center stage. But they did a lot of work for the IT world, as we'll call it today, right? They set the pace. They created the hunger, they created the demand, all right, for IT. But along the line, partners came in. Partners, by partners, I mean companies that support them either in terms of hardware or in terms of location or in terms of storage, as the case may be. So partners like Samsung, partners like who again? Compaq, and co, right? They came in and tried to see how they could also fit into the whole gamut without being identified together. They wanted to be identified separately, and then post 1985, before 2000, we saw a lot of IT projects, IT manifestations, being driven by the demand from industries, right? Particularly from the automobile industry, from the finance industry, from architectural industry. So we saw lots of softwares that were targeted for specific industries, but thank God for Microsoft and Windows, okay? They were one of the few that had that vision to make sure that an average person had a computer that the person would be able to use to engage the world digitally. And I think that was the beginning, right, of what was to come. So thank God for Windows XP, right? Thank God for Windows Me and Co, Windows 2000. They had their pits and falls, but they eventually got there. So after the industries came in, with their demand, the professionals came in to see how they could also create their identity within the space, and post that period was when we had the rise of the likes of Facebook, Google, and Co, and their rise really now brought in the public into the space, and the whole idea of Agile and a lot of all the other modern terminologies that we see today are things that were already in place within some of these big tech giants like the Facebook, the Googles, and co. So it's in an effort, to educate the public, right? Especially their IT professionals public, right? And that was where we had a plethora of manifestations of different angles of IT. It became so beautiful that almost in every area you find that IT is now relevant. So of course, some of these journeys came late into Nigeria as usual, right? But the key thing is that every business now has realized that IT is a platform that can deliver their results far beyond what they are used to or what they have ever thought about. Okay, so any business that is still treating IT like a tool knows that their end is not too far. All right, let's move on. Okay, so DevOps as an intro, and this is where I would like my enthusiasts to try to listen carefully. Okay, so we spoke about a number of phases in the whole software development life cycle, right? And those that gather requirements, let me go back to that waterfall, because waterfall truly is the beginning of all this, right? All these agile and co are just, adjustments to this guy, okay? So professionals play within these phases. For the requirements gathering, they call them the business analysts, right? I'm sure you can relate with that now. Yes, you just go and punch it in on LinkedIn. You understand what I mean? All right. The design phase and the implementation phase, you have the software developers. I'm sure you hear of UI UX, right? User interface, user experience. That's what it means for those that may not know, because some of these terms get so popular that we lose sight of what they mean. Okay, and then you have the front-end developers, which are those that are in charge of developing what the user interfaces with. Okay, and then you have the middleware developers, which are those that develop what those front-end pages or applications talk to behind, right? And then you have the back-end developers, who are those that do the real work. We call it the real work. And these are guys you don't see, they are the deep part of the kitchen. Try to compare the whole professional lineup, just like that of a restaurant. Okay, so the back-end developers truly are back-end. They are the ones that do the actual work. Whatever the user has said at the front end that they want to do, right? And whatever the middleware person has interpreted that to be, right? Whether receiving the request or interpreting the request, the actual doing is the back-end guys, okay? That are the core developers, all right? I really appreciate them in my lifetime. Okay, so so those are the skill sets around these phases. For the verification, we have the use case and testing. These are guys that test the application. So under waterfall, they wait for the application to be ready before they test it, all right? Though they are finding ways of adapting as well. But under Agile, right? Because Agile does not require you to wait till the application is complete, right? So the testers within the verification phase have learned within the Agile environment to be able to test components as soon as they are ready, right? Or features, as the case may be, as soon as they are ready. Or code blocks as soon as they are ready. They're able to test and be sure that those things are ready. They test for usability, they test for different things, and then the maintenance, these are the support guys. So we call them application support, application analyst. There are different terminologies in the market, okay? So don't let these things bamboozle you, right? Just go and check the details of what they do. They fall within any of these 5 phases. Okay, so I'll go back to my DevOps introduction. So my definition here is actually from Microsoft, okay? And I'll tell you why I picked that definition from Microsoft later. All right, it said it's a compound word, of course, it's a compound word, DevOps, meaning development and operations, okay? But what does it mean for teams, right? It means that is a union, right, of teams that were formerly in silos, right? Just like what I showed you earlier, the waterfall. Remember I told you each of those phases had specialized teams for them, right? So DevOps in this sense, as they are explaining it, right, is a way of bringing together these teams, okay? Bringing together these teams. So a representative of each of those teams, requirements, design, implementation, verification, and maintenance, right? Each of their representatives form a team in order to, in an agile manner, deliver software and value in a continual basis. Okay? So, but of course, there are people that are creating buzz nowadays. They are called the InfoSec guys, the cyber security, blah, blah, blah. You see a lot of buzz online about them. So, of course, they also have tried to chip into this, what I call DevOps loop, right? So you hear DevSecOps or DevOpsSec, something like that, right? So it's all the same thing. It's just simply having a representative of the information security team within this union, okay? All right, so you will see that with the DevOps loop is the spirit of Agile, okay? Meaning you start from planning and then you build. I mean, from planning, of course, you code, meaning you write the actual commands that would create the software. That's what we refer to as code. And then it passes it on to build, right? This is where you collate all the codes that will deliver a particular functionality. That's what we call build. Once that functionality has been created, then it is now tested. In the waterfall, it's called verification. It is now tested. Once it is tested, confirmed, okay, of course, the test is done with the user that requested to validate, and all that, amongst other tests, right? And then it flows to release. Release means you are pushing it into production, all right? So for some people, they push it first into an environment they call pilot environment before it is then pushed into the live environment when the public or the users can actually then access, all right? So from test, it moves to release. From release, you move to deployment. At that stage, users and the public can make use of the application. And then we start operating it as IT. This operating here then means the work of support people. They are the ones that operate it. They can put it on, they can put it off, they can put off one feature and then put it on later. They can, different things, right? And then the support people as well are responsible for monitoring. They do the monitoring, check that the application is always available for people to use, and not just check that the application is available, they also check that the application is usable, right? Then from monitoring, of course, you see issues and feedback from the users that may not have been factored in the initial plan process. So the monitoring phase then feeds those issues and improvement items back into the plan phase. And then plan phase takes into cognizance those things, make amendments to the code, and that's how the loop continues, right? So it's a forever loop throughout the journey of the software. I don't know if we have any questions so far. Okay, someone said DevSecOps. Okay, that's what you're trying to correct me. Thanks, Akinwale. Okay, any questions so far? Because I could as well have recorded this video and probably sent it. Smiling at myself and all that.
Hello, good afternoon. I have a question, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
My question is that we're saying that there are different teams involved in this agile process. Assuming one wants to become a DevOps engineer, it's is it that you have to be somebody that does all this work, or you get a job in each of the team? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
You get a role, maybe like a release engineer, a test engineer, or is it that only one person has to do all that? You say you're looking at a job as a DevOps engineer. Will they tell you that this is the unit you're going to be working in, or?
I like that question. I love that question. And in fact, that question confirms to me that I've taken this presentation in a proper journey, because this slide is what I will use to answer your question. Okay. So now I spoke about all these different phases, right? And the different specializations in them. Okay. Now, the DevOps, as is properly defined, right, is not a team that is meant to plan. No? It's not the team that is meant to build. They are not the team that is meant to code. They are not the team that is meant to deploy input. Okay, so there are some environments, right, that call DevOps team as the team that does development. No, they are not the team that does development. Okay, they are not the team that tests. They are not the team that, do you understand? Okay, so DevOps, right, is the team that is responsible for bringing all these teams together. And I'll tell you why, all right? The whole idea of DevOps, all right, is automation, okay? Meaning, let me go back to this slide. For planning, right, the people that plan, they are a team. Whether waterfall or agile, they are a team. Do you understand? So how can a DevOps person help this team? There's a tool that he would have provided, or that is provided by the organization, right, that helps them to plan, okay? For coding, DevOps does not code, but the people that code, that's the developers that I explained earlier, right? They make use of different tools. Those tools, right, is the responsibility of the DevOps person. Okay? The people that build, put together the codes to deploy, right, or to be tested. There are softwares or tools that do building, that build, right, which I will discuss in the next phase. For testing, there are softwares that are used for testing. All those softwares that are used by the different professionals in this loop are managed by the DevOps person. Now, the DevOps person is not necessarily someone that poaches or is canvassing for tools, no. But he is the person who, through tools, right, tries to integrate all the different teams that play in this space. So, in other words, the maturity of any DevOps team would depend on how well the person has been able to, through tools, automate the processes involved in this whole loop. So, I now come to this page, okay? So you will see that for planning, there are different softwares. Of course, Microsoft Office is the oldest collaboration tool that most of us know, the most common, right? You have Microsoft Teams, blah, 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 of course, that can be used and all that. For building, a lot of us, especially developers, would have heard of GitHub, yeah, which is where developers store their code, right? Of course, I'm sure you've heard of, I'm sure some of us have heard of Perforce or Eclipse, GitLab. There are lots of them. There are lots of tools out there, right? And then some of us would have heard of Jenkins. Please don't tell me you have not heard of, if you're an IT person, you've not heard of Jenkins, don't tell me here so that I won't be looking at you somehow, okay? Just go and Google it, all right? Jenkins is used for that process of release, right? In this, sorry, there are different names they put here. This continuous integration means release, right? You are releasing it into production. By production, I mean the environment where customers or users can have access to, right? Usually some environments would have pilots and then live as part of their production environment. So when you want to release a software or a change to a software, you first release to a pilot version, which not all users have access to, just some few users, so that those users can quickly test those functionalities, be sure that there is no breakage anywhere, it won't cause any issues and all that, before finally releasing it to the live environment, okay? So the job of the DevOps person is to take care of this loop, take care of the participants in this loop, all right? So if you look at all these things, in some environments, you realize that some of us have just been playing in the deploy phase, right? Which is one of the key value adds for a mature DevOps team within a software development factory, as the case may be. A lot of us have heard of Docker, we've heard of Kubernetes, Puppet, and co. These are all technologies that aid deployment in a least disruptive manner. And that is why they are gaining more momentum than the traditional Windows Server or Linux OS and co, right? Because it's easy to deploy, it's easy to clone, it's easy to do stuff, right? It's so easy, not just easy to deploy the application as it were, it's easy to deploy it with its infrastructure and everything in such an easy manner that you would not, the user would definitely not notice any change. So a lot of DevOps teams are focused on the tools that play around the deploy phase, okay? But I would just like to use this opportunity to tell everyone that is interested in DevOps, you need to be interested in all of it, okay? So once you have matured in the deploy area, try to expand to every other area because it's quite useful. Adiola, I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes, very well, thank you.
Good. So because a DevOps person brings all these guys together, there is advantage in them knowing a bit of everything so that they can integrate well or communicate well with the different participants, whether support, development, security, deployment, whatever. Okay, any other questions, guys?
Yes, IJ, they are, okay, so someone is asking, let me just quickly take it. Okay, so he's asking that, so what does a DevOps person actually do specifically? I think you've answered that, right? Then do I need to be a software developer before venturing into DevOps? I think you've also answered that as well.
Yes, but let me stress that again.
All right.
Just like we have non-IT professionals being able to enter IT, right? You also have non-developers that are being able to enter DevOps. It's an advantage to have development background. but it is definitely not a showstopper, right? Dapo, you're a DevOps person. I don't think you have development background. Yeah.
No. I'm not a
Exactly.
developer. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. But through your journey with interacting with them, I'm sure you've learned a lot of principles around development because you've had to help them with some of your tools.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so next question
okay.
is DevSec, that's development and security, an integral part of DevOps. Do they work after the DevOps or parallel to them?
Okay, so DevOps works with the structure that the IT has provided. Remember, I said DevOps is regardless of whether you're using waterfall or you're using Agile or you're using whatever. Okay, so the whole idea, right, is that you're able to automate the processes that integrate one phase of the software development lifecycle to the other, right? So if your environment does not have security, for instance, of course, there's no security process to integrate. But if your environment has security, right, then the DevOps person is able to discuss with the security guys to be able to design something, especially where they play, because security usually would play around the testing phase, right? Depending on the structure of IT. Because if it is waterfall, they would fall in between testing and release, okay? But with the recent Agile teams and Agile restructures, right? Security can play at any phase of the loop. They can play in the planning part, right? So that the code will be secure from the onset, not having to wait till test before. Do you understand? Okay, so the important thing is that the security person is able to identify his or her own processes within the whole software development cycle. So DevOps adjusts itself to the defined cycle of software development in the environment it finds itself in. Okay, so we have DevSecOps for environments that have operational IT security. Okay, a lot of times what I've seen is that the information security teams are not staffed enough to have representatives in the different software teams or Scrum teams, as the case may be, or Kanban teams, right? So what they do is that they sit as allies or as friends, as people that these teams can call into their meetings to make their inputs every now and then, okay? So a DevOps person who sits, who also comes in to facilitate some of these meetings or processes, is able to see that, okay, if the security process is an integral part of this software creation, right? They can then ask the security guys, do you have a tool that helps you do this? It says yes. Then the DevOps person can then integrate this tool as part of the process so that the teams don't have to always call on the other person. Once a phase has been done, the DevOps engine or DevOps tool is able to pass the request through the security tool and then shipped out, depending on what phase of the loop that the team has agreed security should play. Okay, so I hope I was able to answer the question.
Yes, okay, there's another one. It says, does it mean DevOps engineer provide all the softwares to use to automate the products? I think you have also answered that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for the lecture, sir. Please, can you advise what the minimum qualification, training, experience, certification should be for someone who intends to get a role as a DevOps engineer or staff in fact, are those who work in DevOps called DevOps engineers. Okay, can I take that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, yeah, so basically, this is what this platform is all about. Like, again, there's nothing like DevOps engineer, right? So just like Saiche said, DevOps is a culture. DevOps is a practice that you need to understand, right? Because it talks about bringing in everybody, like all the participants. So just like I said, it's like you are a pipeline, right? That you need, you know, so that you are now able to collaborate with all the teams needed to release a product faster to the target audience. That's to the target market. So, you know, traditionally, the way we do things today is, you know, developers develop on their laptop or on their server somewhere. Then they compiled whatever they deploy. It's called an artifact or it's called a package. They compile all of that and then send to the testers. The testers run their tools, you know, they check for bugs, they check for vulnerabilities. At the end of the day, once they now discover that, and again, mind you that the testers themselves can take up to like a month for them to test. Once they now discover that there's a bug somewhere, they will now return it back to the developers. The developers will now spend like another month, you know, to fix all of those bugs, right? After that, remember that it has not gotten to operations. Operations are the guys that will now deploy that software on the server. Now, mind you that the operations does not know how the software works, and the developers do not know how that application ought to be deployed on the environment, be it on a server. So there is a friction in between. So DevOps is also about creating that frictionless environment where you have everybody in the loop. You know, you have everybody, you know, within the same pipeline, but in an automated way, so that the developers focus more on the application. They focus more on, you know, creating a reliable service that will work. The testers also focus on automating, you know, all of the testing capabilities. So there's nothing like I will have to wait for the tester at the end of everything to test. No, the tester is involved right from the beginning, even till the end, even before deployment. But a way to do that is now automating the testing. That is why we have tools. But before you now start throwing tools, you know, all over, you need to understand the methodology. That is why we are going through the basics, right? And so, you know, HA also mentioned the different platforms, you know, that you can use or that can aid these deployments. It talked about Kubernetes, it talked about Docker, talked about Jenkins, you know, different tools that are needed. But if you don't understand the basics, if you don't understand the culture needed, then, you know, it's going to be chaotic. So I guess that's just like a real summary. So exactly, that's what this mentorship platform is all about. So at least we'll take you through all of the things that are needed, you know, for you to become a DevOps practitioner. So again, there's nothing like DevOps engineer, because really you are just, okay, thank you, sir. So what do we call a resource? Who coordinates the union of these people, processes, and technologies to marry DevOps and operations? So Saiche, do you want to take that? I think really that's where a project manager comes into play. Am I wrong or correct, Saiche? So the question again is, so what do we call a resource? Who coordinates the union of these people, processes, and technologies to marry development and operations? Yeah, you can take that, sir.
Okay, so that was why we started the daas.ng journey with project management. Okay, so of course, all these things is not just for fancy. It's created so that IT can deliver value, okay, that is being requested of it by the business. Okay, so somebody is responsible for coordinating the different human resources or skills in order to deliver that value, right? Now, IT by itself, like I said, Agile was something that came up as a result of a meeting with developers at some point in US, 2001 or so, right? They didn't want the traditional way of organizing themselves, the traditional project management way, okay? They've looked through over experiences, projects over projects, and they've decided that Agile is the best way to drive IT resources in order to deliver value, okay? So I would call a DevOps person the reverse project manager, right? Like the alternate project manager. He is busy enabling the teams to work together. So their tools and everything, and how their inputs flow to outputs, and how their outputs flow to inputs of the next teams or the next process, as the case may be, okay? So, like I said, DevOps is very key, right, to an agile way of delivering projects or delivering value, right? But DevOps also exists or can also provide value in a waterfall model, right? The idea behind DevOps is automating that flow, right? So it is not responsible for converting inputs to output, no. DevOps is responsible for flowing one output into another person as another person's input. However, the human beings or these professionals involved are the ones responsible for converting input to output, either using a tool or doing it by themselves with the knowledge they learned from school, you know. But DevOps is responsible for that connection from one process to the other. Now, Agile has made teams structure themselves in a way that all the representatives of the different processes are together, all right? So any little thing that one process has done, the other process can take it up because that process's output is this other process's input. So since they are all in a team, right? The tester, for instance, doesn't have to wait till the developer has finished. But if the developer has done one code block, the tester can quickly test that code block, right? Without waiting for the full thing to be ready. Okay, so using DevOps practice, right? That code block can actually be passed to the tester, because it's the DevOps person makes that very possible. Makes it possible that it's not just full projects that you can pass to the tester or that the tester can see from his own tool or from his own side. Okay, and likewise, you know, that is why most softwares nowadays, right, especially the publicly available ones, you'll be wondering when they do their changes, when they amend their applications, right? Softwares like Facebook and Twitter and co, they are always available. So how do the changes happen then, right? It's some of these things that make it possible. Code blocks, that is all. And it's not every user that is using that code block, as the case may be. And then the beautiful part is the deployment part, right? The DevOps person can make it such that it's deployed and made available to segments of people per time. You know, they have, you know, depending on the maturity of your DevOps team, right, you can achieve most of these things. So from the visible part, the project manager is the one that drives these different teams to deliver value, right? From the back-end side, the DevOps teams are the ones that enable these teams, enable their skills. You know, they provide the tools, they provide the connectivity between the tools, right? Not connectivity as per network, but connectivity as per workload. Okay, from one phase to the other in a beautiful manner. So DevOps guys and DevOps enthusiasts, we are the guys that make it happen. We are the guys that make it tick, all right? Okay. Do we usually have DevOps departments and units in IT organizations today? Let me answer that question in a way, because some people will catch me at work on Monday. All right, so most organizations did not have DevOps, okay? And just like we all in our personal lives, we are trying to adjust, adapt, just like our oldies, our parents now, they are jumping on WhatsApp. They are not used to WhatsApp, but they are jumping on WhatsApp. The time you know that they are oldies is either when they are forwarding just anything they see to us, or when they see us post something, they will call us and say, "Oh, what is it? Kilo de, kilo shele." Or they will call and say, "I don't like what you wore," that kind of thing. So just like them, some companies have, or some IT departments in some companies, because of the boss, right, have decided to create a DevOps team within their IT department. However, their definition or their implementation of DevOps might not actually be what it was meant to be. Yes, it's a start, but it's not what it was meant to be. So most people have just put in development and operations team and put them together without really changing how they work, or changing or making the processes interconnected, just like we have in this flow. Okay, so yes, most organizations have started to have DevOps, but please be careful about an organization that is trying to employ you and you have a DevOps stream and they said they want to employ you in their DevOps team. Always ask them what exactly the DevOps team does so that you can put things in proper perspective. All right. In my previous place of employ, before DevOps came up, right, the people that were kind of closest to the DevOps team are people I would call the system administrators or the infrastructure team. Maybe basically because all the applications sit on infrastructure. So they are the ones closest to understanding, the relationship between one server or one host to the other, right? But really, before now, nothing close to what DevOps is. DevOps is like a democratic leader that is trying to bind all the other parts, together. So your DevOps journey can start from a non-IT background. It can start from a development background. It can start from an infrastructure background. It can start from a support background, right? Of course, it can start from any area of IT, but within IT, infrastructure or system administrators, support team, right? A very mature support person, right? Or a developer, right? Can leverage on their experience to do well with DevOps, right? But it is just an advantage that can be quickly lost by lack of attitude. How do I grow to become someone skilled in implementing what you have taught today? Okay. I would have loved to know where you are starting from or where you are at now, so that we can draw a journey. So, but this is what we will do, right? Let everyone that is not part of the class, that are registered for the class, let's give them an opportunity to register. And if the classes are filled, maybe we can share resources with them once they have registered, share class resources so they can maybe start reading up on their own ahead of the next time that would have an available class, And then one of the key things that I think daas.ng should do is to be able to partner with the different people at their different stages of IT growth and be able to agree on a journey that would work for them towards becoming a DevOps expert. Dapo, I don't know. I think that's a good idea. What do you think?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. So so for people that want to join the platform, right, you can just send a mail to me Dapo, I'm dropping the email address now. Just send a mail to Dapo at daas.ng. Though we have a journey already, we have actually outlined the journey already. So we would integrate you. So just send a mail to Dapo at daas.ng or hello at daas.ng, either of the two. And then we'll look at how we can bring you up to speed as regards what we've done so far so that you can be fully integrated. So for people that want to join in, right, you can just send that mail and we'll look at what can be done as regards that so that we can always bring you up to speed as regards what you need to know, to become, a DevOps practitioner. So.
Okay, thank you, Dapo. All right, those that are not in IT, you can raise your hand. Let me just identify you. Maybe you've not played in the IT space. You're sort of kind of interested. You want to try your hands on something relatively easy for you to adapt. Okay, interesting. All right, so what I have tried to do, I've tried to stay on this page, right? On this page, you would see a lot of applications, right? What I've thought so far is to put everything in proper perspective, right? But I would encourage you, look at any of these applications, depending on the area of the loop, right? Look at any of these applications, right? And go and search for them online, okay? You see a lot of followership on them. See if you can download, see if you can read up stuff, see if you can watch some videos online. I used to trip at some of the training videos I see online. IT guys are trying, honestly, right? So take up one of these so that you don't confuse yourself with the whole gamut of tools. Just pick any of them, go check online, look for someone that explains it properly. I'm sure it would add to what I have said today. And then from there, you can also continue to build your interest. Join communities, right? Because nowadays, the truth be told, a lot of these tools, you will not know about them from our physical discussions. If I meet Dapo now outside, the first thing we'll be talking about is Manu, not even IT things, right? So these are not things that come up in our everyday physical conversations anymore. So to find information on some of these things, you need to be online and you need to change your online culture beyond social media, right? And some of these tools have adapted themselves in a social media-like way, right? So that it can be interesting for anyone that even mistakenly finds about them, okay? So check these tools out. Note which part of the phase that I mentioned that they play in, and then see whether it's something that would interest you. A lot of videos online on most of them, okay? Let me just also add, Microsoft as is characteristic of them, right? So thank you, Cheese. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Fidel. I've noted that. Dakwa, I hope you noted those that raised their hands so that we can also try to reach out personally to them and see how we can make sure that they start their journey, right? Their journey of interest, right? Even if they don't end up as DevOps, because the truth is that if you focus on any of these tools, you may end up becoming a professional in that phase. So what that means is that, let's say you pick GitHub, for instance, you would most likely end up flowing with the development aspect of this DevOps loop, right? If you pick a tool that is in deploy, you may most likely fall into the system administrator infrastructure phase of DevOps, as the case may be, right? But it is a start, right? Because the truth is that it is members of this phase that are able to leverage on their experience to become very good DevOps experts, okay? All right, so Microsoft, like I said, they tried to have one tool that does everything. Can you beat that? Microsoft has a tool that does everything. So, of course, Microsoft has some areas of strength, like the .NET framework, of course, Windows Server, blah, blah, blah. They had what they call a TFS, Team Foundation Studio, and things like that. So they also had Microsoft Teams for collaboration, which will also help the planning phase of the loop, right? So they consolidated on their strengths. And guess what they now did to the other weaknesses? They now went to buy tools that play in the other spaces, right? And put them all together and called it Azure DevOps. Can you beat that? All right, so they like as usual, Microsoft tries to make things simple, right? Just like Windows. Okay, so that's let's not look at it, let's not look at them suspiciously. They try to do it to make it easier for even professionals like us that are called DevOps, right? Because without them, DevOps experts would have most likely, and that's why DevOps experts have only played in a few of these roles. They've played a part in automating just a few of these roles instead of the whole loop. So Azure DevOps or DevOps, Microsoft DevOps as it were, right, is an attempt by Microsoft to have a one-stop shop for DevOps experts in order to provide that integration between all the phases of software development and delivery. Okay, so I brought out another name so that in case you want to go straight as a DevOps engineer, just type Azure DevOps on Google or on Bing, and you can move on from there. Okay. Thank you. Interesting. Thank you, Emmanuel. Okay, you said now you appreciate the tools that your IT departments were using those days. Don't worry. I pray that you yourself will be the ones providing those tools very soon. Okay. All right. So lastly, let me just focus on the class now. Now, DevOps as a team, right? They are also a team, remember, and they are meant to deliver things, okay? So they themselves too, just like a project team, have to be able to organize themselves in a way to deliver value, right? So DevOps as a team can work with any of these methodologies as part of their own organization to deliver value. That's why I repeated this slide. So it was not a mistake. All right, so our task for the classes, I think we have 4 groups, right, Dapo?
Yes, we have 4 teams. Yes,
4 teams. Okay, please help me type it out, right, so that I can assign their own, okay? So one of the teams is going to, with the product that they choose for last week's exercise, right? They are going to structure their events and their activities in the Scrum methodology manner, right? They will need to show me how they would organize themselves from beginning of a request to the delivery of the request using the Scrum methodology. Another team would show me how they would organize themselves in the lean software development format, right? From receiving the request to delivering the request. Extreme programming will also show us, right? Kanban will also show us, okay? So the 4 teams will share them accordingly. So that means the task before you as well is to also go and read up in details, because I sent some materials earlier in the week. That I believe you shared it with them. So all those materials are focused on this methodologies, and you can also Google for more details as well outside whatever I may have sent. Right. So from there, structure your team in a way that you believe will best deliver your product using any of these methodologies. And of course, I'll be available on the Discord channel to answer any questions whatsoever that you have, any questions whatsoever you have around these methodologies. Okay. With that being said, thank you very much. I hope I was not in any way confusing to anyone. I'm willing to provide further explanations, further clarity, anytime you catch me online, physically, wherever, okay? My name is Agubata, once again. I'm an IT enthusiast, all right? And that's my email address, and my LinkedIn profile is there. So you can also still chat me up on LinkedIn. But preferably, if you can join the daas.ng, it will be very key so that whatever advices I'm giving, others also can also learn from it, right? Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was awesome. I wasn't surprised. My name is Oluwaseyi Otunbo, one of the founders of daas.ng. So Eche, like I always call him, Eche, high availability is always available for us. And we thank you because we know how busy you could be, and we decided to create that time to encourage upcoming IT enthusiasts that are having interest in DevOps and they want to imbibe that culture. Thanks so much. Eche is somebody that those of us that are in that have an electrical engineering background. You know, there's a textbook that everybody, if you don't have that textbook, you don't say electrical engineering. Teraja. Eche is somebody that can compress.
Teraja, where did you pull that from?
He can compress Teraja for you into one page. And that's what he has done with this session for us. I mean, very interesting. And look at the way he has made the Agile methodology very simple to us, very, very simple. I want to believe those of us that have been in this class, you've gained something, you've gained a lot of things that will help, to kickstart your journey into applying the Agile methodology. Like he said, it's not whether it's a framework, whether it's a methodology, whether it's a philosophy. The most important thing is the value you are giving, and giving value to customer. You are giving value to people around the organization. Thank you so much for the time. And those of us that have also created time to be part of this session, we appreciate you. Those that are part of the class already, and those that are not part of the class. Like you said, we'll work towards that. Those that are not part of the that are not part of our class, we'll work towards, even though we have we are going to have it in phases. This is the first class we're having. We have different series of classes. So we're going to see if we can accommodate people that want to join. We'll see platforms that we can set up so that we can reach out to people just to get them prepared and ready for when the next class will come up. And thank you so much, everyone. I'll allow that to give us some further announcements for those of us that are in the class. That over to you.
All right, thank you, Sheon. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Echezona Agubata. Right, so we are grateful for the time and passion, to mentor the next generation DevOps engineers. I remember when I spoke to you about this initiative, you fell in love with this, with the idea. I will know how busy you are, but here we are today, creating values, supporting one another. So once again, thank you so much, sir. All right, so quick announcement to all our mentees, right? Please be reminded that we will meet again for our group discussion, right, tomorrow, right? Because we couldn't meet yesterday with Yetunde, because she had